80 years have passed. 8 decades since 2 fateful mornings in August 1945. Yet, the shadows of those 2 days still hang over humanity. They stretch through time, a lasting reminder of our power to create and our terrifying genius for destruction. The names Hiroshima and Nagasaki are not just places on a map. They are burned into our shared memory. They stand for a line that was crossed, a moment when what war means and even what peace means changed forever. The world was changed forever by the fire and fury unleashed from the sky. To understand how important these events were, we need to look past the dates and numbers. We need to listen to the voices that were almost silenced. It's a very human story. It's a story of everyday people, kids going to school, moms making breakfast, workers heading to their factories, whose lives were shattered in one bright, blinding flash. Far from the busy streets of Hiroshima, on the faraway island of Tinian in the Marianas, very different preparations were happening. This was where Project Alberta, the working part of the Manhattan Project, was based. Here, the world's first atomic weapons were put together and loaded onto specially changed B-29 bombers of the 509th Composite Group. The mood was one of deep secrecy, huge pressure, and a shared feeling of being at a turning point in history. The men of the 509th, led by Colonel Paul Tibbets, had trained for months for a mission they didn't fully understand. They only knew it was important, that it involved one plane and one bomb, and that it would change how the war played out. The bomb meant for Hiroshima was codenamed Little Boy. It was a uranium gun-type fission weapon, a marvel of physics and engineering. The flight to Japan was long and uneventful. The crew, a group of young men in their 20s, tried to stay calm, going through their checklists with practiced care. Below them, the Pacific was dark and peaceful. Ahead of them lay a city just beginning to wake up, whose people were getting ready for another normal day of war, not knowing they were the target of a weapon that would give the world a new and terrible vocabulary. The morning of August 6, 1945, dawned clear and bright over Hiroshima. The early air raid warning, caused by the American weather plane, had been called off. People came out of their shelters with relief. At Shima Hospital, which was almost directly under where the bomb was planned to hit, doctors and nurses began their morning rounds. In kitchens all over the city, the smell of rice and miso soup filled the air. Life was going on as usual, moment by moment. At 8:15 a.m. local time, the Enola Gay, flying at over 31,000 feet, opened its bomb bay doors. Little Boy dropped out, starting its 43-second fall toward the unsuspecting city. The bombardier, Major Thomas Farabee, had used the T-shaped Iowa Bridge as his target. The bomb exploded about 1,900 feet above the city. In that moment, a silent, burning flash of light and heat bathed Hiroshima in a blinding glow. Survivors described it as Pika, a brilliant, dazzling flash. It was hotter than the surface of the sun. It vaporized people near where it exploded, leaving only their shadows etched onto stone steps or walls. A second later came the dawn, the thundering roar of the shockwave, an unimaginable force that flattened almost everything within a mile. In a fraction of a second, the busy heart of Hiroshima turned into a scorched, flattened wasteland. The city center stopped existing. Over 70,000 people were killed instantly or died within hours from the combined effects of the blast, heat, and the first burst of gamma radiation. The famous skeleton dome of the Prefectural Industrial Promotion Hall, one of the few buildings left standing near where the bomb exploded, became a striking and lasting reminder of that moment. For those who lived through the first flash and blast, a new and even more terrifying reality began to unfold in the ruins of their world. 3 days later, on August 9th, Nagasaki faced a similar fate. The second atomic bomb, Fat Man, was a plutonium implosion weapon. Even though it exploded over different land and was partly shielded by the city's hills, the destruction was just as terrible. Another 40,000 people died instantly, and the total number of deaths in both cities would continue to rise in the following months and years. The news from Hiroshima and Nagasaki sent a shockwave around the world, as profound as the physical explosions themselves. The first public announcement came from U.S. President Harry S. Truman. 16 hours ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima. It is an atomic bomb. It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe. The first reaction was a mix of wonder, relief, and a growing, creeping fear. Japan surrendered on August 15th, just 6 days after the bombing of Nagasaki. The bomb, it seemed, had worked as intended. The United States had a brief hold on this ultimate weapon, but the Soviet Union was determined to catch up, starting a frantic effort to build their own bomb. This started a frightening arms race, a decades-long standoff between two superpowers, both with the ability to destroy each other and the world many times over. The mushroom cloud became the defining symbol of the 20th century, a strong picture of both human cleverness and human foolishness. The shadows of Hiroshima and Nagasaki now fell not just on Japan, but on the entire planet. The world had crossed a terrifying line. The genie was out of the bottle, and it seemed impossible to put it back in. Today, 80 years later, Hiroshima and Nagasaki stand as living memorials to the strength of the human spirit and a serious reminder of the cost of war. Every year, people from all over the world gather in these cities to remember the victims and to work for a world without nuclear weapons. The Hibakusha, the survivors of the atomic bombs, have spent their lives telling their stories so the world never forgets. But the threat of nuclear weapons has not gone away. Today, there are more nuclear weapons in the world than ever before, and they are much more powerful than the ones that fell on Japan. The international community continues to work on arms control agreements and peace efforts, but the path to a world free of nuclear weapons remains long and hard. The job now falls to younger generations to learn these lessons and make sure history doesn't repeat itself. The flame of peace continues to burn in Hiroshima, reminding us that from humanity's darkest moments, light and hope can emerge. We all have a responsibility to keep this memory alive and to work for a world where such weapons are never used again. History must not repeat itself. Share this video to keep the memory alive and fight for a more peaceful future. The shadows of Hiroshima and Nagasaki remind us, never again.